Hello and welcome to another special edition of our election series, the Dhabas of Democracy, our election road trip from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So far, we have actually reported from 10 states. We have reported from countless parliamentary constituencies, and we have traveled 10,000 kilometers and counting by road. And there's so much to unpack in this election. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. For many of you who have been following our journey, you know that we started in the southern states and have worked our way now through the Hindi heartland. Those are our images from our latest series from Bihar. The debate is still on as the fifth phase of voting takes place. There are those who believe that this election has completely turned. And there are those who believe that the BJP is still comfortably poised. And of course, none of us know for sure. We will only know for sure on the 4th of June. But there are many interesting theories coming forward as we travel across India. Different psephologists and different analysts have different opinions. You have opposition supporters like Yogendra Yadav making one argument, and then you have political strategist turned politician himself, Prashant Kishore, making a completely different argument. Those are the images you, of course, see from Maharashtra of the vote taking place. But on the program today, we'll be looking at these two differing strands. One that has been made as an argument by Prashant Kishore in his interview to us. In this interview, he spoke about how he believes that nothing is fundamentally changed, but the brand of Prime Minister Modi is declining. On the other hand, you see images of the kind that you're seeing on your screen. Massive rallies for Akhilesh Yadav and Rahul Gandhi, where there has been a virtual stampede by people to get a kind of touch of them, a feel of them. As I said, two very differing perspectives on the same election, and only the Indian voter knows for sure. Let's introduce our guests on the program today as we try and read the election tea leaves. Joining us on the program today is senior journalist and editor Sunita. She's, of course, based out of Lucknow, a consulting editor with the Hindustan Times there. Welcome to the program, ma'am. Mohandas Pai is with us. Mr. Pai is an industrialist. He's a venture capitalist and he's a political analyst. Welcome back to the program, Mohan. Also joining us on the program is the former CEO of Prasar Bharati, Shashi Shekhar. Welcome back to the program, Shashi. Saba Naqvi is with us. Saba Naqvi, of course, has been talking a lot about how interesting things, and that's an understatement if there ever was one, are taking place in her home state of Uttar Pradesh, and we'll talk about that in a moment from now. And also joining us is a senior political analyst, Manisha Priyam. Dr. Priyam, it's a pleasure to have you on the program with us. So, all right, let me actually set the cat among the pigeons. I'll take first comments from all of you, and then I'll play a clip of Prashant Kishore that I think will provoke both sides, no matter which side you support. So I'll start with you, Manisha ji. If I had to get an overall sense from you on what is happening, and then I'll come to Shashi Shekhar after that. I suspect might be two differing perspectives. What does it look like to you at this point, Manisha ma'am? Ma'am, you're muted at your side. Ma'am, unmute yourself. Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. No, so this election, the state mandated it on us that this would be a 7-phase election. Now, there were many meanings put into it, but it meant, therefore, that this election became, for many reasons, a highly localized election. And therefore, brand Modi, which was projected in 2014 as an all-India brand, I heard and saw Narendra Modi at two very important rallies in Gumla, where there was a Bandi in Jharkhand, and I saw that the local, shop owners opened up shutters by the time Narendra Modi's rally was to happen in Gumla. And I also saw his rally in Saran, 50 degrees heat, this thing. Now, this time around was the exact opposite. This time around, I started seeing the elections from Tamil Nadu, and I saw that a national political leader with a national brand was talking about things like Kachativu that had no resonance in my home district of Saran. So for no other reason, but the big reason that the election was being played in 7 different phases. Once Mr. Modi would do a rally, he would do a rally in Chopra, then be back in Kerala. So it would mean that the local leaders would be picking up issues, they would be raising issues, and by this time around, 10 years, Mr. Modi's government and his track record of governance was the number one agenda being discussed in gullies, nooks, and crannies. And I believe that whatever we say, our country is spoken up again at this moment when sovereignty travels home. This is a time when the poorest of the poor and my lost cousins in my village home, even as I speak to you, I'm getting messages. Oh, this particular booth, there's rigging, there's that happening. Today, my home district of Saran is in polling mood today. And I feel, therefore, that there has been a tectonic shift. And the most important thing is that voice has taken ground. It will be difficult to reverse this phenomena. It is about the people of India. And this election is certainly about voice and discussions being rallied around in every nook and cranny of India, unlike what I've seen in the last decade or so.
So briefly, Manisha, before I open this up and go to Shashi, what you're saying is in the absence of a single national issue that resonated, the election A became highly localized, and that opened up spaces that many assumed would not happen. And B, therefore, you believe that the election has turned from the assumptions that most people have had of a kind of done deal for the Prime Minister when the campaign began. Is that fair to summarize?
It is indeed in terms of outcomes. If you would look at the elections only as outcomes, I look at it as a process. I look at it as a people-oriented process. In terms of outcomes, you are right. In terms of the processes, I hold.
Okay, fair enough. I can't argue with a veteran analyst like yourself. Like a good hack, I'm looking for that bottom line. Kya acha headline kya hai? But Shashi ji, let me bring you in. I know that you have a differing perspective, and basically, I think none of us, we're all making guesstimates, right? There are 1 lakh villages in Uttar Pradesh alone. So हम में से कोई for sure to janta nahi, for sure to 4th June ko hi pata lagega. But Dr. Priyam has put forth an argument. Do you see that the BJP has had to fight harder? Would you at least concede that the BJP has had to fight harder in this campaign than they had assumed they would have to?
I don't agree with that because I think the facts say something very different. You look at every campaign, be it 2014, be it 2019, and then of course 2024. Mr. Modi has worked as hard every single time. Just look at the number of rallies and roadshows. Right? Just look at the staggering difference. He's done nearly what 160 or 150, I don't know the exact figure, in terms of public events. And look at the other side. It's not even touching 100. It's probably less than half. Right. So you're talking of a stark difference in the kind of energy that he has put in. And he's done this in every election. I don't think there's a single election where he has not put in this effort. I remember even municipal elections where the outcome has been mentioned by him and on his Twitter handle, where he's, in his
Shashi, I suddenly can't hear you. Shashi, I suddenly can't hear you. Shashi? Okay, I think you're having some.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, we just lost you very briefly. Just if you can repeat your point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was saying is that just the sheer amount of energy that he has put into the campaign, I think, speaks for itself. It is nothing unusual about this campaign versus earlier campaigns. I think this has been his modus operandi. This has been a standard operating procedure. As far as where the election stands, I will perhaps agree with what Prashant Kishore has said. I don't think anything has fundamentally changed. What you're perhaps seeing is that because it is such a long drawn election, it's a 7-phase election. There are all these pauses in between, and during these pauses, all kinds of theories are floated and all kinds of speculation happens. But I don't see fundamentally anything that has significantly shifted in this election.
Let's open that up then, Saba, and then I'll come to Mohan and Sunita. There are two very different views, and I'm going to play the Prashant Kishore clip from my interview that Shashi referenced. But do you believe something is turned, or do you believe that we don't know?
I obviously we don't know, but Barkha, I'm kicking myself. I'm only talking about Uttar Pradesh. Okay, you've gone everywhere, and congratulations for a spectacular journey. You're doing it, and I really want to travel as much as I can. But I took it's ghar ki murgi dal barabar. I refused to go to my village in Raebareli Zilla and Amethi, and I have family all over. Then they kept on saying, "Yeah, contest hoga, main gayi nahi." You know, and I'm kicking myself now because I recognize that something has shifted. So I'm going to new places. I'm not going where there are this whole network of people who first said, "क्यों आएंगी? कुछ नहीं होगा. वैसे बीजेपी तो जीत जाएगी." फिर 2 हफ्ते से आप आइए, हो रहा है, आप आइए. This is, So besides that, forget about my little story, but besides that, because I've traveled so much, and as a print journalist, you network with all the reporters in all the district towns. So today, from Fatehpur, bad for the BJP, sitting BJP seat. For Shambi, I'm not even talking about Amethi, Raebareli, disappointing for the BJP. So what I believe is happening, and Sunita is better placed to tell me this. The odd thing, if you look at all the arithmetic of UP, and if this is happening, it's a tectonic shift, that the Dalit voter, which was, if you realize in the assembly, for instance, the Dalits make up 21%, out of which 50% are Jatavs, right? 21%. Mayawati has been a declining force. Her vote share fell to 12%. What were they going to do? I had assumed that they will go with the BJP for the free ration. So what is happening now, I'm told, is that they are actually, some of them are voting with the India Alliance. That some Congress attachment is getting over this, because the SP has this nature of being the, aggressive peasantry party. It's a complicated, sometimes it's not the upper caste who are your immediate oppressors, it's those who own the land. So if that is what people are telling me is happening, that is because the hardest vote to crack, anyone who's reported on this, when you try and do it from the sociological perspective, is always a Dalit voter, because those who are socially weak are the most reluctant to actually reveal their choices if they go against the ruling party. So what is happening now, I'm being told that this is happening on a very large scale and it's picking up. So Sunita is sitting there, she can bear me out. If that is happening, then we are going to see big shifts. And the lower OBCs who abandoned the SP thing, some of them are also going back to SP. The Dalits are coming because the Congress gives them a protection also. So now, if this is true, I'm being very honest here. I'm not on the ground in the 4th and 5th state. So please get people who are in. If this is true, this is a very important local change which will shift in, and a shift in Uttar Pradesh is more important than a shift in Maharashtra and a shift in Bihar, because the BJP is fighting limited number of seats and it has fewer seats to lose. But UP was always presumed. Everybody, I thought 70 seats, so aayenge hi aayenge. I also thought, if that's happening, then we are seeing a shift. Yeah.
Okay, let me bring in Mohan and then I'll come to Sunita specifically on Uttar Pradesh. Mohandas Pai, what does it look like to you nationally? Again, I have to keep qualifying that we can only, these are impressions. They're impressions from talking to people, from traveling, from reporting. None of us know for sure, not even the pundits, not even the exit pollsters. We're all trying to get a grip on a very long election. Go ahead, Mohan.
See, Barkha, in your last show, you asked the closing remark, and I made a remark that when you go to press the button, what do you see? You see the face of Narendra Modi. On the other side, you see nobody. We must remember that this election, and like the last 2 elections, have been an election of Narendra Modi and the BJP against anybody there. Unless there's a very strong candidate, we don't see anybody. What do you see in the opposition? We see a young man who is very old, claiming to be young, going around making all kinds of statements. We see a lady in the East making extremist statement, abusing people, sending a police after everybody. We see some Dravidian hate mongers in the South, carrying on caste racket. All over the country, everybody is making extremist statements where everybody wants power. Power is the only reality in politics. There's no place for gentlemen to be nice to each other, like possibly you may want, Barkha, because power is the ultimate reality. That nobody cares for the losers. Everybody is going all out. So I don't know what what this is about that we are debating today about his brand coming down. I heard your beautiful interview with Prashant Kishor. I think it was wonderful. One of the most balanced ones that I've seen for a long time. Congratulations. But he made a point. Yes, Modi's brand is coming down all over, but I don't know which sections of society. If you look at ordinary people, they seem to be coming to a show in masses. You can talk about some anecdotes, some shops shut here, open and all that. But all over the country, huge numbers of people are coming. That is the truth. And if you see what happened when he went to the big cities, people who normally will not come to the street, will not talk, will sit at home, they were all cheering for him in the streets. In my city of Bangalore, last time when he came, I saw the whole of Bangalore on the street. I never seen it in my life. And I seen some 8, 9 elections. I never saw it in my life for anybody, not even Indira Gandhi. I remember when I was a small boy, when she came here, I don't see that. I mean, he is deeply popular. His brand is there. Yes, for Lutyens Delhi and the fellow travelers, they always been going after him because they're out of power. They don't like him. The left doesn't like him. Now we're seeing some kind of video makers from all over from some part of the world coming and abusing him. There are a lot of abusive people. It's a free for all on social media. I think we should reserve our judgment about brand, because brand means many things to many people and depends on which strata of society we are talking about. I mean, Prashant Kishore made a generic remark, which I think has got some realism in it, because he's talking to people. He's an expert. He knows more about this than anybody else. But I think we're all speculating too much on this. We have to wait for June 4th. But the big issue, Barkha, is a very fundamental question. What is the opposition standing for? This is not as much a show for Narendra Modi as the ability of people in the opposition to stand up, put a cohesive agenda before the people and tell them we stand for this and try to win our confidence. None of them are winning our confidence. That is the biggest problem we have here, not Narendra Modi.
Okay. Thanks, Mohan, for watching the interview and for your feedback on that. And we'll come to that clip in just a moment. Sunita, what is happening in Uttar Pradesh? I think Saba is correct in saying that while Maharashtra defies pollsters, Bengal will be important, Telangana will be important, these are the three states I'd be looking very carefully at. Uttar Pradesh was assumed to be status quo, give or take maybe 4 or 5 seats up and down. Is there something different happening in Uttar Pradesh, according to you?
Yes, I think that some cracks have appeared in their Hindu vote bank. That's the most important thing, which was a solid vote bank. There are cracks in that. And it started from the first phase only. And when the Rajputs, they held panchayats, it is unbelievable to think that any caste bloc would be holding a panchayat in Yogi's UP also against the ruling party. So when we entered the election at that time, we thought the two brands, now it's Modi is one brand and Yogi is another brand, adding to it, they are enough for, continuity, Everybody, all people wanted to give third term to Modi, so it's fine. But from the first phase itself, some dissenting voices started. And there are certain reasons for that. Rajputs, I doubt they voted for alliance. Some may have, but others sat at home. They said, okay, if we are not voting, we are angry, we are not voting for BJP, then we are not voting for any other party. Dalits, they divided. One section says, I'm not going to vote for BJP because of quota and changes in the constitution. This is one issue which I think we generally it's not being discussed so much at Dhabas. But as you know, Dalits are very emotionally attached to B.R. Ambedkar and the constitution. Muslims, and the other section was the Labati section. So generally in a family, a woman may be voting for Narendra Modi and a man going against Narendra Modi. So the Dalit vote bank is also divided. Mayawati, who could have taken away last section, is somehow very weak. And it's a straight contest between Alliance and BJP, NDA. Third thing that has happened is that Muslims decided that they are not going to vote for the strongest Muslim candidate or the party that is defeating BJP. They decided to support alliance come what may have. Fourth, whatever Rahul Gandhi and, when he was started holding his meetings and came with the manifestos, MSP came as a very important point for the farmers and UP being an aggregated society. So if you look at it, now let's come to the OBCs now. OBCs, the extremely backward sections, which were with the BJP, are now looking at the alliance also. Dalits, they were, they had aversion to Samajwadi Party, but because of Congress, they are open to it. Extremely backward caste and also other backward caste, they have been given due representation by Akhilesh Yadav in ticket distribution. Can you imagine a charter lady contesting from a general seat in Meerut. So that also sent a message, and suddenly everybody said, no, it's not a Yadav Muslim dominated party.
Yeah,
Having
okay.
said so, the shift is there. How big the shift is, much would depend on that. But BJP has a comfortable edge right now.
Okay, I think that's a very, very factually summed up situation, that cracks have appeared, but you still believe that if there is a vote share shift, will that result in a seat share shift? That's the big question when it comes to Uttar Pradesh,
That's like
Sunita.
one line I'll explain. BJP stands at 51% vote. Opposition is around 18 plus 6. There's no match. And the election is fought at the booth level also. Where is the team managing their booths? BJP does the management of the election beautifully. So part of it is the personality, part of it is your strategy, part of it is booth management, which is where I think Congress and Akhilesh may not have that much of wherewithal.
So I think you've made a very important point, and Akhilesh has suffered this even in assembly elections. He's able to mobilize big crowds, and those crowds are not actually necessarily able to convert into seats. So we've heard some very interesting feedback from Sunita. Akhilesh Yadav trying to shed his Muslim Yadav image. Mayawati has fielded more Muslim candidates than Akhilesh Yadav has this time. So there are all kinds of interesting things happening in Uttar Pradesh. But now, a portion of the interview that has generated a debate today, Prashant Kishor. Prashant Kishor is now getting ready to launch his own political party. Formally, he's going to contest the elections in Bihar in 2025. So I should say that first. But this is his perspective. These are just snippets from the interview. These are highlights where he makes a twin argument. He calls it a century with 6 dropped catches. He believes the opposition's poor fielding has opened the space for Mr. Modi to come back with the same or more seats. But he also believes what Mohandas Pai was referring to, that brand Modi is in decline. Take a look and then we can discuss further.
Did you read the election in one way और आज आप क्या उसको दूसरे नजरिए से देखें?
बिल्कुल नहीं. मतलब हम लोग उन लोगों में से हैं जिसने 2 महीने पहले जो बात कही थी, 1 महीने पहले जो बात कही थी, और आज जो मैं आपको कहूंगा, मोर और लेस जो देखने का मेरा नजरिया उस समय था, जो मेरा आकलन था, वो आकलन पे मैं खड़ा हूं. और जो हम लोग ये चैटर सुन रहे हैं, अलग अलग वर्जन सुनते हैं, अलग अलग ओपिनियंस, नजरिए आ रहे हैं, वो तो स्वाभाविक है, लोकतंत्र है. जब इतने पत्रकार, इतने एनालिस्ट, इतने कमेंटेटर जाएंगे समाज में और लोगों से बात करेंगे, तो अलग अलग ओपिनियन आएगा ही. एक तरह से आपको रनिंग कमेंट्री करनी है ऑन एन इवेंट दैट इज वेरी लॉन्ग 50-60 डेज. तो 50-60 दिन तक आपको कमेंट्री करनी है, आपको वेरियस ओपिनियंस, यू आर सम वे यू आर फोर्स्ड टू शो ओपिनियन. तो आपको उसमें वो टर्बुलेंस दिखता है, ऊपर नीचे बातें दिखती है, लेकिन फंडामेंटल लेवल पे मुझे कोई चीजें बदली हुई नजर नहीं आ रही. जो चीज जनवरी फरवरी में थी, वही चीज अभी मुझे मार्च अप्रैल में भी दिख रहा है. चुनाव मोदी जी, भाजपा, एनडीए जीत रहे हैं, लेकिन मोदी जी की जो अपनी व्यक्तिगत छवि है, लोकप्रियता है, उसमें बहुत गिरावट आई है. और ये गिरावट आज नहीं आई है, पिछले कई महीनों सालों से वो उत्तर धीरे धीरे गिरावट, एंटी इनकम्बेंसी सेट इन हो रही है. ये आंकड़ों में दिख रहा है, सारे एनालिटिक्स में दिख रहा है, मोदी जी के रैलियों में दिख रहा है, उनके इंटरव्यूज और उनके मीटिंग के टीआरपीज में दिख रहा है. आप गूगल एनालिटिक्स उठाकर देख लीजिए, मोदी जी का कंपैरिजन कर लीजिए डिस्ट्रिक्ट बाय डिस्ट्रिक्ट. द ट्रैक्शन व्हिच ही हैड, द चैटर ही हैड अराउंड हिज नेम इन 2019 इज नो लॉन्गर देयर. अब कुछ लोग उनके जो समर्थक हैं वो ये कह सकते हैं भाई ये तो नेचुरल बात है, 10 साल से प्राइम मिनिस्टर है, थोड़ा बहुत तो नीचे होगा ही होगा, लेकिन ये उनके लिए चिंता का कारण होना चाहिए. ये ऐसे है कि आप सेंचुरी तो बना रहे हैं, लेकिन एक सेंचुरी आपने फ्लॉलेस बनाई और एक सेंचुरी आपने 6 कैच ड्रॉप के बाद बनाया. तो ये चुनाव वो जीत रहे हैं, लेकिन ये चुनाव इसलिए जीत रहे हैं कि उनके 6 कैच ड्रॉप किए गए. विपक्ष ने उस तरह की तैयारी नहीं की, उनको घेरा नहीं, अपनी ताकत नहीं बनाई, वरना वो 20 पर भी आउट हो सकते थे. सेंचुरी तो फिर भी बनेगा, रिकॉर्ड बुक में तो ये लिखा जाएगा कि आपने सेंचुरी बनाई, लेकिन रिकॉर्ड बुक में ये भी लिखा जाएगा कि उस 100 रन बनाने में 6 बार आपका कैच विपक्ष ने छोड़ा.
तो आप कह रहे हैं कि ये विपक्ष की बैड फील्डिंग है,
बिल्कुल।
पुअर फील्डिंग है
बिल्कुल।
कि आज मोदी जी दोबारा सेंचुरी बना पा रहे हैं।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
आप ये कह रहे हैं बीजेपी एनडीए चुनाव जीत रही है, लेकिन मोदी जी का अपना ब्रांड वीकन हुआ है, सलीड
बिग
हुआ
टाइम, बिग टाइम। हिज ओन करेंसी हैज बीन डिवैल्यूएटेड। आप उनके बहुत जो डाई हार्ड समर्थक हैं वो भी प्राइवेटली ये कह रहे हैं कि जो एक बहुत केयरफुली क्राफ्टेड एक छवि उन्होंने धीरे धीरे बनाई थी पिछले 15 साल में उत्तरोत्तर, कि भाई फ्रॉम हिंदू हृदय सम्राट टू एबल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर टू ए गेम चेंजर टू एन स्टेट्समैन, ए पर्सन हु इज ऑन हिज वे टू बिकम ए स्टेट्समैन, उसको बहुत बड़ा धक्का लगा है। और ये मोदी जी भी समझते होंगे, उनके जो वेल विशर हैं वो भी समझ रहे हैं। लेकिन अब चुनाव है, लड़ना है, जीतना जरूरी है, तो ब्रांड पे कुछ धक्का भी लगे तो
बीजेपी क्यों जीत रही है फिर?
जीत, मैंने आपको बार बार कहा, जीत इसलिए
द मिस्टेक्स ऑफ द ऑपोजिशन,
बिकॉज ऑपोजिशन की कोई तैयारी ही नहीं है।
सो व्हाट डज दैट से फॉर द फ्यूचर ऑफ द ब्रांड ऑफ मोदी?
नो, द फ्यूचर सेज कि देयर इट्स अ brand which is in decline. It is not in ascendance, it is in decline. The pace of that decline is a function of कि opposition से challenge या narrative कितना strong हो पाता है।
But that's after this election. You think this election is a done
लेकिन
deal?
अगर opposition न भी करे तो दूसरा जो पहलू मैंने आपको बताया कि the decline in the faith or blind trust in Modi would reflect either in votes if opposition were to get its act together. If not, then it will certainly reflect in public dissent, anger, जमीन पर आंदोलन। ये चीजें आपको मोदी के तीसरे टर्म में ज्यादा दिखेंगी। दिस इज कंप्लीटली अपोजिट टू व्हाट मोस्ट पीपल थिंक। इस बार वो जीत कर आएंगे तो पूरा देश में बस एक तरफा हो जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं, उल्टा होने वाला है।
Are you saying Mr. Modi is going to be a weaker prime minister than before?
Definitely.
Okay. There's something in that interview to irritate all sides. Or there's something in that interview to take away and say, हाँ, हमारा side जीता, depending on your point of view. Shashi, I'll start with you. Prashant Kishore makes two arguments. He believes the opposition messed up. If you look at the fuller interview, he talks about how the India Alliance started just too late. The Congress thought it was going to do well in the assembly elections, so they got their act together much too late. They have not been able to channel anti-incumbency, rural distress into a fundamental shift. But he believes that the personal brand of the Prime Minister has taken a hit and does not stand where the Prime Minister himself would have wanted it to. How do you react to these seemingly paradoxical comments? Shashi Shekhar.
I think Prashant Kishore is kind of victim of his own hypothesis, where he said that, the election is so long, everyone has to come up with theories, we need to give opinions. I think his comments on brand are, symptomatic of the same measure to say whether the brand is on the ascendant or on the decline. I don't see any such objective measure. You look at his social media numbers; they're all, as strong as ever before. As far as TRPs are concerned, we know that the whole TRP system itself is questionable. So I won't get into that. The nature of social media has changed. I think that is something we need to recognize. Earlier, social media engagement in the campaign was largely through interactive mediums like Twitter and Facebook, which were measurable. You had an objective measure. Today, the election is largely on private, person-to-person social media. It's on WhatsApp groups. It's on all kinds of person-to-person messaging, where you don't have an objective measure. So there is really no basis for you to say whether the brand is up or brand is going down. As far as his own engagement is concerned, be it his rallies, be it his interviews, he has not let up even one bit. He's maintained that momentum, and I think that speaks for itself as well. Then, lastly, I would make this point that this whole notion that somehow the brand has lost its appeal. We seem to forget that between 2019 and 2024, we've had a massive, big event, a once in 100-year pandemic, and he has come through that unscathed to put the country back on track. So I think that in itself speaks to a lot in terms of how he has been able to sustain his persona, where today the discourse has completely ignored what has happened with COVID. We straight away go from 2014, 2019 to 2024. We forget what happened between 2020 and 2022. And then that speaks to how his
Okay.
public persona has been able to, dominate the narrative.
Okay, let's bring in Manisha Priyam. Manisha, you know, the other argument, which I think we can all agree with, is that the India alliance lost critical time. That even if you see new energy in the opposition, the Congress spent a lot of time thinking it was going to do better in the assembly elections. And Prashant Kishore makes the argument that between October and February, almost nothing happened on the opposition front. Now it's too late. You argued in the beginning of this program that there's a tectonic shift that you feel. It's a phrase that Saba said is possible for Uttar Pradesh. Sunita is still saying no. Hold on. Shifts hai, but BJP has the edge.
So once again, let me begin with what Prashant Kishore has said. Look at the statement he's making, two parts. He's looking at the data narrative and he says whether it's 7 stages, whether you analyze it 6 months before, you meaning he is going to be just the same. Now, in terms of any fundamentals of data analytics, the one thing that one cannot say about data is smooth it with any certainty. And I hope through your channel, please request him to read Nicholas Nassim Talemji, and you will understand that the fundamental nature of data is uncertainty. And elections are a process by which you take the uncertainty of lives, and India, which is a country of the poor, the uncertainty and precarity of lives, it's covered over by election results. And we try and make a short term certainty out of it and give hopes to people and agendas to governments. Now, who is a very respected Mr. Prashant Kishore to tell me that I should not be discussing about any fundamental change or turbulence from then to now, when in fact, in the grassroots, in my fieldwork, I do find the difference. And let me therefore take you to one of the sites, a very key battle. I know there are tickers running on your show saying UP is very important, Maharashtra and Bihar not as much, but I'm tracking an important constituency called Ujiarpur. And why is it very important? Because, it's not as if the BJP did not put in long-term strategies into fighting this Bihar battle. They picked up a Kushwaha leader, Samrat Chaudhary, whose father was an erstwhile RJD person, as the leader. This was going to be a definite rural and OBC face for the BJP. But by the time the elections come, the maximum number of tickets to the Kushwahas are actually given by the RJD. And you have Ujiarpur, where the Kushwaha leader, Upender Kushwaha, is fighting a battle with another Kushwaha leader who comes from the CPIML. Now, what's the summary of this small story in the big picture? The summary is that both Upender Kushwaha of the NDA and Rajaram Kushwaha of the CPIML are talking about issues of farmers and agriculture. I do not hear any resonance of the Ram Mandir. I do not hear at all anything about the G20, and therefore I am there to conclude that precarity of rural lives matter. And therefore, I conclude that people have taken the opportunity of this general election to ground it to their issues. And do not think that rural. I heard another theory that came about was women voters have to be watched out for, and they are getting the rations. As if you give them a delivery of a ration ki bori, and women are the captive gaiya who will ration mila, ghas khai or vote de diya. This is not correct. And indeed, I've been writing on women voters, the Indian Express op-ed, etc., turning it out for Nitish Kumar, etc. There are issues being developed by them. The point is, take the opportunity of the elections, whether it is an esteemed and a very prestigious, poll strategist like Prashant Kishore, to listen to the voices and tell us what the voices are saying, rather than tell me that there's certainty in data. I make the last point about the brand Modi. I think I differ with him there. I find that even as people are discussing in the Modi rallies, as many people turn up and definitely do not criticize him, though as soon as Mr. Modi is exited, the whole discourse becomes very, very different. So I do not think that there is such an irrelevance of brand Modi. Everybody gathers together. It may be faction ridden, but I find very little criticism of Mr. Modi. So I do differ from him on both respects. And that's the nature of data. That's the nature of political life.
That's very interesting. But to be fair to Prashant Kishore, in the longer interview, he speaks repeatedly about the kind of issues you're speaking about. But his argument is the opposition has not been a people are. He argues that the people are the opposition. The opposition is not the opposition. So I should give him that context. Mohan, it's very interesting that basically maybe we can all agree that people are making this election about issues of livelihood, of economy, of education, of opportunities for their children. And that is how it should be. And irrespective of who wins, that is a healthy turn. That's a
Absolutely,
shift that we
Barkha.
can all
See,
agree on.
Barkha, absolutely agree with you. What Prime Minister Modi has done is to raise the aspiration of the ordinary Indian. Today, almost all Indians have got the basic necessities of life: food, water, shelter, power, toilets, gas, everything else. They're getting good infrastructure in places near to them. Large number of jobs are being created, even though the majority of do not pay well. People want more, people want a better life, and they're very eager for a better life. Aspirations are higher. Did you see the same level of aspirations in 2014? You did not. So many people who resigned to their fate. UPA 2 was such a disaster with so much of corruption. People are angry and upset, right? You didn't aspire. I've never seen such high aspirations in India. And you must give credit to him that aspirations are higher. When aspirations have gone up higher, because the basic necessities of the most of the people have been met, then obviously they'll be extremely critical, they'll demand more. And that is a healthy sign. That is the deepening of democracy, where every citizen is saying, this is what I want, and this you must provide for it, right? And we are demanding from Modi or whoever rules this country that, look, we want all these things, forget about that. We want to see a big difference in the quality of our lives. We want better education for children. We want better jobs. We want more safety. We want more security. We want more income. That's what they're demanding, and that's very good. And if they're being critical about that, I think that's a fantastic thing that we are seeing.
And what do you say on the brand Modi argument? I know you said we should hold our judgment on that, but do you find Prashant? Yeah.
Barkha, brands always go up and down. Okay, brands are not a constant thing. You know that brand. I mean, you are such a fantastic brand at one point in time. You are the great heroine, right? Then you saw it downturn. Now you come back. You know, everybody on this show, Saba, you know, everybody respects her. She's a great brand. Sometimes you're very critical of her. We're very critical of Manisha. We're critical of everybody. So brands go up and down depending on the circumstances. Today, there's so much of clamor, so many things happening, so many negativism, so many things. So we can always say the brand is coming down, this is happening, one small event here, blown up into something, all kind of stuff, right? So I think what we should say is, I think to me, the conclusion is the aspirations of the ordinary Indians have come up. Is a great sign. India is progressing well. We are demanding greater performance from the government. We're impatient of governments who are come to power. We're demanding more. We don't want to go back to the old days of patronage and family and all that. And we want a better life for all of us. And that's why we're becoming more critical and more open.
And I think you make a good point about brands not remaining constant. No brand can remain fully constant all the time. And that's a point well taken. Now, before I come to Sunita and then Saba, I'll give you the last word. Akhilesh Yadav and Rahul Gandhi. Sunita spoke very perceptively about the kind of social engineering in their ticket distribution, a shift in UP, but said the BJP still has the edge because the margin, the gap is so high. Now, the pictures have gone viral of stampedes at some of their rallies. At one rally, the mic failed. And Rahul Gandhi did a conversation with Akhilesh Yadav. I'll play out a 30-second clip of that and then I'll come to Sunita.
बट मुझे लगता है कि अब एक नई तरीके की पार्टनरशिप बन रही है क्योंकि जो इस बार हमारा कोऑपरेशन है शायद पहले ऐसा कोऑपरेशन नहीं हुआ मतलब बिल्कुल सब जुड़ गए सबसे अच्छा ये है कि जितना उन्होंने कहा दो लड़कों की जोड़ी उतना युवा आपसे हमसे इंडिया गवर्नमेंट से और जुड़ गया तो ये नेचुरल अलायंस है
So that's just a little snippet. Sunita, go ahead with your thoughts because you ended your last comment by saying there are shifts but the edges with the BJP.
Hi, I lost a little bit. Now, I find Prashant Kishore contradictory. If Modi is not a brand or his brand value has gone down, then BJP is in for trouble. It's Modi who's going to get seats. In fact, in UP, they changed certain candidates thinking that Modi, because of Modi, they'll win. For instance, I can talk about Bareilly, I can talk about Pilibhit, from where Varun Gandhi was removed. Seasoned politicians were removed. Meerut, where the two-time MP was removed and Arun Govil was sent. So I think brand Modi, whatever it is, he's a savior for BJP. If he's not there, then BJP cannot win the elections. And this brand has been created. All the hoardings have Modi ji. Nowadays, sometimes we do see Yogi's photograph. Regarding these two young boys, as it is, do ladke UP ke, which is, I find it very funny because ridiculous, because they're politicians. Whatever they are, whatever they are doing, good or bad, but they're trying to give up a fight. They're trying to put up a fight. And I think opposition must do that. Why should we criticize two people just because they have come together, they have better understanding, there is a better coordination between their workers, they're able to pull the voters towards them, crowds towards them, and we criticize because they are there, because they are the only ones who are fighting Modi. Otherwise, it's the field is open for BJP, all seats they can take. So I think there is criticism of Rahul and Akhilesh because their alliance failed earlier. So maybe this time also people think that, but the crowds that we see, that tells a different story. Let's not forget 2004. Who was there against Atalji? Sonia, who couldn't even speak. Rahul is speaking better. Akhilesh is speaking better. So, sometimes some surprises do happen in politics. But as of now, you don't see that happening.
I was just going to say to you, Saba, and then I did remember one other thing I wanted to speak about, which was JP Nadda's very interesting comment, the BJP president's comments on the RSS and the BJP, and he actually seemed to suggest that the BJP could now exist autonomously of the RSS, something we haven't spoken about, because a lot in this election will depend on getting the vote out. There have been reports of a dispirited, RSS worker in pockets, but I think we must also acknowledge that if there is no wave, if there is no surge, if there's no visible one issue, there is no palpable anger except in pockets. When you go to a Samajwadi Party rally, sure, I met young men desperate for jobs, very anguished about, leaked exams, recruitment into the military. But overall, through my travels, I have not sensed that. And I think, as someone said, Akrosh nahi hai, Ankush hai. Maybe people are not angry, but they feel the need for some risk to restrain, to restrain overarching power. That doesn't mean a tectonic shift, though. Saba, go ahead.
So there are a couple of things, and it's counter. One might contradict the other, but this is what I think. First, obviously, the BJP starts off. Sunita made a very good point, with a far greater grip over the technical aspects of election. In Uttar Pradesh, when I traveled, Uttar Pradesh, they have divided into 6 zones, the only state they have done so with. It's a very interesting strategy because it was a state that they conquered actually only after Modi came in. So they have an office in Meerut, they have Braj, they have different headquarters where the Sangathan works. They map every constituency, electoral roles, and I have repeatedly said that the opposition is very, very weak with that aspect of the election. They depend on creating a wave. But what I also know, because I've actually have some of these pictures, Sunita said, Rajputs were angry, but I can tell you that in one particular seat, I took the village. It's called Rewa. It was an entirely Thakur village. And it was a funny, Fatehpur Sikri was won by the BJP with over 4.5 lakh votes. And I found an odd sequence of events unfolding over there. There was a Jat candidate and the Thakurs, the whole village was voting for the Congress over there. And then I go and I've taken a picture of this guy. There's a board outside his house, ex-BJP MLA. Anyway, he was saying, Sangathan ne hame bulaya hi nahi hai, 4 log, hamare ghar mein 4, Aligarh se lekar Fatehpur tak, Sangathan ka abhi tak aaya nahi hai. So there is a weird thing in Meerut. Aapne Meerut ka zikr kiya. Meerut bhi main gayi. Meerut में भी Arun Govil, the candidate himself said कि संगठन ने मेरे लिए काम नहीं किया. तो बीजेपी को technically कई जगह बीजेपी ही shaft कर रही है. My latest is, this is simply through connections, अमेठी का एक block है because Smiti reportedly through other sources, has been very arrogant with some of the local workers. एक block में नहीं कर रहे हैं उसके लिए काम. तो ये जो we talk about cadres, we talk about संगठन, they are human beings. They may also have a view कि हमें कुछ मिल रहा है, ये corrupt लोगों को दे रहे हैं. That is also a little bit of it is happening in specific seats. I'm not saying there is an overall rebellion. It is not so. And I believe, I would imagine that this is magnified multiple times in a state like Maharashtra, where you have wrecked parties and you have brought in people against whom the same Karyakarta was used to run campaigns. Yeah.
So the outsider factor is a very important factor. So, I want to play out one statement of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has kept his focus on the India Alliance, on Kejriwal, on Parivarvad. But I think after we hear the Prime Minister, let's take a couple of closing comments on where is the opposition today? Does it have a cohesive strategy? Mohandas Pai asked, Modi versus who? Is Rahul Gandhi now the de facto prime ministerial candidate? Does it matter? Does it not matter if the election is getting localized? But first, the Prime Minister from the campaign trail.
इंडी गठबंधन दिल्ली को तबाह करने में जुटा है. ये लोग राजनीति का लगातार पतन करने के जिम्मेदार हैं. ये लोग करोड़ों देशवासियों का भरोसा तोड़ने के लिए जिम्मेदार है. ये लोग दिल्ली को लूटने का कोई मौका नहीं छोड़ रहे. ये लोग भ्रष्टाचार मिटाने के नाम पर आए थे और हजारों करोड़ के घोटाले में जेल के चक्कर लगा रहे हैं. और ये कांग्रेस, ये तो पूरी तरह एक्सपोज हो गई है. पहले कांग्रेस वाले पत्रकार वार्ता करते 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 क्रेडिट लेने के लिए तूफान मचाए रखा था. वो कहते थे शराब घोटाले के पर्दाफाश का क्रेडिट कांग्रेस को जाता है. फिर शाही परिवार के कहने पर भ्रष्टाचारी को ही गले लगा लिया. कांग्रेस के स्थानीय नेताओं को भी समझ नहीं आ रहा है कि करे तो क्या करे. दिल्ली, हरियाणा, यहां दोस्ती और पंजाब में कुश्ती, ये ढोंग कब तक चलेगा? दुनिया देख रही है कि कैसे एक भ्रष्टाचारी दूसरे भ्रष्टाचारी को कवर दे रहा है.
So this is Delhi, of course, and the context is Arvind Kejriwal and the Congress party. But let's come back in closing comments on Modi versus who. A lot of times, Manisha ji, I'll start with you. Quick closing comments, so let's keep them brief. लोग कहते हैं हाँ ये मुश्किल है, ये मुश्किल है, ये मुश्किल है, पर और कोई विकल्प नजर नहीं आ रहा. मोदी नहीं तो और कौन? What Mohan said in the beginning, if not Modi, then who? What about that essential question? Does it matter? Does it not matter in an election that's getting localized?
No, it does not matter. I mean, if you see political change, when it has happened in India, it's happened by a sliding of votes from the dominant party. The dominant party is still retained a share, and a coalition, a group or coalition has come around to basically, upset whoever has been ruling at the center. Indira Gandhi, is a great example. There is no possibility of the kind of diversity we have, the kind of resources it requires, upstaging a giant and a behemoth like the BJP today and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not happen by a single figure coming out and saying, oh, here I am the brand and I am the party. It has to be the political party and the man leading it, that around a coalition of state forces. That is the only. If you see in this image that you show time and again, there's Arjun Munda by the side, there's Sanjay Seth by the side. That's Jharkhand. For Modi to be accepted as a leader in Jharkhand, he and Arjun Munda did not get along. So Modi himself has got this power by becoming the great mergers and acquisitions man, especially in North India, the Nishad party, the smaller parties that have come around to accepting his agenda. So the deconstruction, the slide down will happen in a very slow momentum. And Mr. Modi does have his brand and does have his value. So I will not be surprised if he does emerge with a certain image and a large number accorded to him even in this election. The slide doesn't happen at one go for a leader and a party that he leads now.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, and I want to get Saba to respond to that. Saba, last comments. There isn't, for a sudden decline, you need a 1977 election. This is not a 1977 election, at least not visibly, not palpably.
No.
There is no mass rage. There is no unpopularity. Prime Minister is not unpopular. Manisha has also said that,
So,
he's a very dominant political brand. So even if you're talking about decline, as Mohan said, declines go up and down. There are chinks in every armor.
So I think, Barkha, what we're looking at is Mr. Modi. The Bharatiya Janata Party is born at the end of a messy coalition when the Janata Party experiment. If you remember, the Jansangh gets absorbed and then they cease to exist. Okay, that was a disaster. Then the BJP is born in 1980, and the BJP gives us, Atal Bihari Vajpayee gives us the first complete coalition in government. Now, the question I think is there that is this going to be a simple majority rule, or is it going to be an NDA coalition to an extent, unless we're seeing an utter shock? Who knows? I think those are the questions in my mind. About Prashant, who I like very much, I want to ask you this question. Did you ask? I didn't watch the whole interviews. I saw clips last night. Is that, he was, YSR was his client. I visited him in the Hyderabad office. Arvind was his client. TMC was his client. Does he have a current client right now? Is Chandrababu Naidu his client? He's talking in the open forum. So and the timing of his intervention makes him sound, he's very bright. And I admire him. It sounds like he's becoming an influencer. To say, nahi, wo nahi ho raha. Majority to aa rahi hai. Just as you could say, certain pollsters are influencers on the other side. So I'm just saying that point as a very cynical journalist. Is bar freelance nahi hota?
But which side?
You are sharing your thoughts and mind, or you are being an influencer.
Which side did you see him on? It was not fair.
Definitely, because he has to keep credibility.
Why?
Because when people are saying
he was so critical. Ek minute. He was so critical of.
I want to know about Jagan Mohan Reddy. Is he? I have been told, because another political party guy told me, I'm telling you straight out there that actually Naidu, he's advising Naidu. Now, it would be complete misinformation. It is lies, but people are saying this about him. Then it's unethical for him to, before voting in Andhra, to say that as a mind, like I'm giving you my opinion. If the opposition is client, then you need to make that disclosure. I'm just saying that. Yeah.
Okay, fair. Okay,
I think wrong. I think he's a brilliant guy, and I have visited him in Calcutta, Hyderabad, Delhi, everything. You get that point, right?
Yeah. I think it's a fair set of questions, and absolutely, and our job is to ask all of those questions and more. Shashi, closing comments.
Yeah, I think the way the election stands today, I don't think anything fundamentally has shifted. As far as the opposition is concerned, it is very clear. I think the most clear giveaway in terms of their lack of confidence was the manner in which the Amethi and Raebareli decisions were made. Keeping Wayanad voters in the dark and then waiting till the last minute and then choosing to vacate Amethi and then choose Raebareli. I think that in itself is the story of this election, that the opposition lacked confidence in their own abilities, in their own story. And what you're seeing is all kinds of narratives to fill the gaps, which is what even Prashant Kishore pointed out. It's a long drawn 7-phase election, so we have to fill the airwaves with all kinds of theories, and that's what you're seeing. But I don't think fundamentally anything has shifted in this election, and I think the Modi-led BJP with its NDA allies will be back in power. The numbers, of course, I think we'll have to wait and see what the final numbers.
But Sunita, Saba asked a pertinent question: will it be a BJP simple majority or an NDA government? And because those, a coalition and a single party government wield power in very different ways. And we don't know the answer.
But nobody knows the answer. And I think it will be a very, very difficult guess because, sometimes you have a mental block also. We all believe that Modi is invincible. And how the voters behave sometimes, it's very, very difficult too. But I disagree with Prashant Kishore, also with Yogendra Yadav. I think both have become politicians now. And somewhere their judgment is also clouded by that. I'm very open about it. And because what he's saying is very, very contradictory. The brand value has gone down. This. So I think BJP, Modi is an advantage. If he was not there, they wouldn't have come back to power. And even Amit Shah is a big asset to the party for all the poll management they do. 2 elections, 2 phases in UP, there were problems. And after that, the way the Rajputs have been managed, the way the election is being managed, whether RS is helping or not, but the cadre, the ministers, everybody has been deployed. Nothing doing. Your future in the party depends on your performance today. So.
Yeah, okay. That's succinctly said by Sunita. Mohan, we give you the closing word.
You know, Barkha, I agree with Manisha that there's not going to be a fall in anybody's brand. It will be a perceptible decline. And in 2029 is going to be very, very serious because people look for the future, for the next 10 years for a leader. Point number 1. 2, we have never seen a more charismatic leader than Narendra Modi in the last 40 years. The only person who came close was Indira Gandhi at a peak. Please remember that. He's very charismatic. In my city of Bangalore, when journalists from west of India and Bombay came here, had a great lunch with the chief minister and spoke very highly. Then he went into a bus and he thought that all the women will jump up and down with a free ride and asked them, whom do you want for prime minister? All women said, Modi, Modi, Modi. He asked them why. And they said, look, this is about the country, not the state. Now, when it comes to the country, Indians will choose a leader who they believe protects them best, who takes care of all of them. And Narendra Modi's record, all data says, is unbelievable. He's impacted the largest number of Indians in a very substantial manner compared to any prime minister in India's history, because we have more people today than in Indira Gandhi's time too. Please remember that. And he has executed projects very well. People's lives have gone for the better. And, there is going to be criticism. Ambition is high. But I think overall, I don't see any decline in his brand. I do see much more criticism today than earlier. But let's wait for June 4th. And Manisha is right. Manisha is right.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with her.
Okay, we leave it there. Indian politics and Indian democracy is endlessly fascinating, but it is very hot. And I think we all need this election to end soon now and to get to the last page of this book, as it were. Thank you so much, Saba, Naqvi, Manisha, Priyam, Sunita, Mohandas Pai, and Shashi, Shekhar, and to our audience for watching. That brings us to the close of another edition of the Dhabas of Democracy. We'll see you from another part of India and another parliamentary constituency tomorrow. If you're not a member of our community, the link is right below. Become a Mojo member today. Thank you for watching. See you soon.
We're at the Indian mainland's southernmost tip in Kanyakumari, the confluence of the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. It is from here that we're beginning our big road trip to the heart and the soul of India, Dhabas of Democracy. That's all about traveling thousands of kilometers to look at the food, the fun, the festivity, the flavors of this election, but also, of course, to tell the stories of you the people, of we the people. At Mojo Story, we have always gone to where the story is. It could be the battlefields of Israel and Gaza, it could be the conflict zone of Manipur, or it could be the sorrow and the tragedy of COVID. We think of all of you as members of our community, of our family. So, I'm urging you and requesting you today to help us tell your stories and our stories. So do become a Mojo member. Support and power our storytelling, but also get first access to our big interviews, our special ground reports, our town halls, and also have the opportunity to ask our newsmakers questions directly, as well as get published on our platform. Become a Mojo member, click on the link below, and see you soon.